Precious had always been a deep sleeper, but lately, her nights were filled with eerie dreams. She would find herself wandering empty streets, the only sound being the distant hum of the city at night. The air would be thick, almost suffocating, and her body felt weightless, as if she was floating rather than walking. But each time she woke up, she was in her bed, confused yet convinced she had never left her room. At first, she brushed it off. Dreams could be strange sometimes. But soon, something started to feel terribly wrong. Every morning, her bedroom window was wide open, though she was certain she had locked it the night before. A chill ran down her spine, but she told herself it was just forgetfulness. Then, the spiderwebs appeared, thick, glistening strands draping the corners of her ceiling, stretching over her furniture, clinging to her bedposts. She cleaned them, but they always returned by dawn. And then came the most disturbing part. Things she had never bought, never owned, began appearing in her house. An elegant gold necklace resting on her bedside table, an expensive silk scarf draped over her chair, a diamond-studded wristwatch on her dresser. Even food, fresh fruits, wrapped pastries, a bottle of red wine, sat neatly on her kitchen counter. She lived alone. Who was bringing these things? Or worse, was she the one bringing them? The unease grew unbearable. Precious needed answers. One evening, she carefully placed a small camera on her bedside table, setting it to record throughout the night. As she lay down, she whispered a silent prayer, hoping she was just imagining things. Morning came too soon. Sunlight streamed through the open window. Precious grabbed her phone with trembling hands and pressed play. The footage began with her sleeping soundly, her breathing slow and steady. Minutes passed. Then, something shifted. Her body jerked. Her fingers twitched. And then, to her horror, she sat up, her eyes still closed. Her movements were unnatural, controlled by something unseen. Slowly, she rose to her feet. Her limbs twisted, her back arched. Bones cracked as her arms and legs bent unnaturally. Her skin darkened and hardened into a glossy black shell. Her mouth stretched grotesquely as sharp fangs emerged. 8 long, hairy legs sprouted from her back, writhing and reaching. The transformation was complete. A monstrous spider now stood where she had been. Precious watched in horror as the creature scuttled across the room, crawled to the window, and slipped into the night. Hours passed in eerie silence. Then, just before dawn, the creature returned. Dangling from its fangs was a stolen piece of jewelry, a golden bracelet with intricate designs. It crawled back onto the bed, its body contorting, twisting, shrinking. Bit by bit, it transformed back into Precious. She lay back down, as if nothing had happened. She screamed, dropping the phone. Heart pounding, Precious ran to her mother's house, her fingers clenched around her phone like a lifeline. "Something is wrong with me," she gasped, thrusting the phone toward her mother. Her mother, an elderly woman with sharp yet weary eyes, played the video. Precious watched as her face paled, her breath hitching in her throat. Then, to her shock, her mother began to cry. "My child," she whispered, her voice thick with guilt. "I am so sorry. This is my fault." Precious stared at her, confused. "What are you talking about?" Her mother's lips trembled as she spoke. "When I was younger, I stole from people in our village," she admitted. "It started as petty theft, food, small items, but I grew bolder. One day, I stole from a wealthy woman, but someone else was blamed. A young lady, innocent, pure-hearted. The village elders punished her severely. She was beaten, humiliated, and exiled. She had no way to prove her innocence." Precious felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Her mother wiped her tears. Before she left, she cursed the real thief. She looked at Precious, sorrow heavy in her gaze. "She cursed me." Precious took a step back, her heart pounding. "The curse was not meant for me," her mother continued bitterly. "It was for my child. For you." A chill ran down Precious' spine. That night, Precious refused to sleep alone. She stayed with her mother, hoping she could somehow fight whatever was happening to her. But the curse did not care where she slept. At midnight, as her mother dozed beside her, Precious' body convulsed. Limbs twisted, bones snapped. The monstrous spider emerged once again, its grotesque form silhouetted against the dim light. Her mother woke just in time to see it crawling toward the window. With a cry, she lunged forward, trying to grab it. The spider turned on her, striking with inhuman strength. She was thrown back against the wall, pain exploding in her ribs. Before she could recover, the creature scurried out into the night. In the morning, Precious awoke to find her mother bruised and in pains. Tears streamed down her face. "This must end," she whispered. "We must find the woman who was wrongly accused." The journey to her mother's village was long and filled with silent dread. When they arrived, they asked around, searching for the woman who had suffered decades ago. They were told of the village the woman had relocated to after being exiled so many years ago. Eventually, they found her. Time had aged her, but her eyes still held the pain of her past. When she saw Precious' mother, her expression darkened. "You," she hissed. "Do you know what I suffered because of you?" Precious' mother fell to her knees. "I was the one who stole from Madame Edna," she confessed. "You were punished for my crime. Please, forgive me. I'm so sorry. My daughter is suffering for what I did. The curse you placed on me, on her is terrible. It turns her into a terrifying spider that steals." The woman's jaw clenched. "You let me be beaten and exiled. You let me rot in shame. I only called on the ancient spider spirit to deal with you and yours on my behalf." Then she turned to Precious, who stood trembling, her eyes filled with silent pleading. "You were not the one who wronged me," she said softly. "I cannot punish you for your mother's sins." And with that, she forgave them. That night, as they slept, something slithered into their room. A massive spider, larger than any before, crept forward, its fangs dripping with venom. Its many eyes gleamed with rage. But this time, Precious was ready. The moment the spider lunged at her mother, she grabbed a bottle of kerosene and hurled it over the creature. It let out an ear-piercing screech, thrashing wildly. With shaking hands, she struck a match. The flame flickered for only a moment before dropping onto the spider's slick body. It burst into flames. The creature writhed, screaming in an unearthly voice, until it finally collapsed into a pile of ash. And with it, the curse was gone. For the first time in months, Precious slept peacefully. No open windows. No strange dreams. No stolen goods. She was finally free. Our actions, whether good or bad, have consequences that can ripple across generations. The sins of the past can haunt the innocent if left unaddressed. However, true redemption comes through honesty, repentance, and making amends. Precious' story teaches us that confronting our wrongs, seeking forgiveness, and righting past injustices can break even the most terrifying curses. In the end, only truth and sincerity can set us free.